Welcome back, friends, to Google Sheets with Jason. Today we're going to be looking up data. We're going to be looking specifically at the vlookup. It's the most commonly used lookup function that I can think of. I mean, I use it every day in my work, and I think it's very important to understand it because it can cut down on a lot of looking things up manually and filling things out manually. So I want to go back to this little sales record spreadsheet that we created here. And I want to actually, instead of putting in the price per unit every time we have an item sold, I wanted to look up the price per unit. So I'm going to wipe this out. I'm just going to take all this data out of here that we put in manually. And this is really helpful too when you've got a long spreadsheet. So this doesn't have that many records to it. This has about 70 records, 68 records to it. But, sometimes you have spreadsheets with thousands and you want to do a lookup quickly. So if you remember, we put together this inventory sheet, this quick inventory sheet back in the basic lessons. And now I want to use that inventory sheet to basically fill in the price per unit based on what the item was that they sold. So the formula is equals vlookup, and then you open a bracket. So vlookup stands for vertical lookup. You're looking up data that's in columns. So the first one is the search key. In other words, what is it that you want this cell, this lookup, to look for? Well, it's the item sold. So we want it to look up this, nail, C2. It's in the same row. If you put it in a different row, it'll look up hammer, but of course it will be mismatched. We want it to look up the same data in the same row. So we want it to look up nail. And we want to put that as a reference. You could actually put the word nail in there if you wanted, but it's best always to use the search key as a reference. That way, as you move this down, it'll obviously pick up whatever it is, screw, hammer, wrench, nail, etc. So then we want to go with the range. The range is back on this inventory sheet, the first tab. And we want to pick up item description. And we want to go all the way over to the sales price. So all the way over to column F. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's 6 columns in the sales price. It's always important that your search key is looking up a value in the first column that you choose in your range. So in this case, it's column A, but it's A1 to F5. And that's 6 columns. And why we need 6 columns is because we're going to hit F4 here to make that reference, that range reference. We want it to be static. We don't want that range to change. Then we're going to hit comma. So you hit comma, and the next item in there is the number of columns, the index. In other words, where is the value you want to get? So in column A is the value you want to look up, but what value do you want it to actually show on the other page? That's 6 columns in. That's in column F, the sales price. So then we put 6. And then you put is sorted true or false. It's not actually necessary. It will actually default to false, and you almost always want false. True doesn't work that often. So false means that the match has to be exact. Has to be exactly the word nail or the word screw or the word hammer that it's looking up. The exact match. True means it can be close. But I've never seen true work because Google Sheets and even Excel just isn't that smart. Maybe with new AI, it'll get that smart. Who knows? Maybe they'll merge AI into this and really actually make a VLOOKUP with the true value actually work. but usually it just returns funny values. And maybe I'll show you that in a minute. But we're going to put the word false in here. That's the default, and that's the best way to do it. So, the formula, once again, vlookup, open a bracket, your search key, what you're searching for, where you're searching it for. Of course, that's in the first column of the range. That's the second area in here. First column of the range is where you're looking up the value that you chose in the first place, C2. And then you extend the range out to the value you want it to return in the same row, because it's a vertical lookup. And then how many columns is it in? It's in 6 columns in. So I could extend that out, let's say, to Z, but it'll still pull in the 6th column, because I'm telling it the 6th column right here. And then, of course, we put the false in. And the false is just the default. Always use the false. That'll give you the exact amount. So I hit enter, and it returns $6. That happens to be the price per unit for the nail, which is the first one on the list. There's the sales price, $6. It returned exactly what I wanted it to return. So why this is useful is you can copy this down and I'm going to copy it down further. I'm going to copy this down further, the total price. And why am I doing that? Because I am going to say we're going to have some more sales here, and it's going to be walk-in customers. But now I'm going to say, oh, this guy bought a hammer, and he bought one of them. Did you notice? This filled in automatically. And of course, this was a simple formula that just multiplies the quantity in the sales price. But this NA became $15. Now, there's a formula to remove the NA as well, so it shows blank. I'm going to show you that right now. So basically, you take your vlookup. Before the vlookup, you put the letters if, NA. Then you open a bracket. Then you go to the very end, and you close that bracket. Now it's showing blank. Until there's a value in there that this can look up, it will show blank. And those will show zeros. You can also put an if NA in there as well. But let me show you how it works. Let's go wrench. Oh, look, it added $20. This guy's buying 2 wrenches. And let's do some nails again. Oh, look at that. It's not nails. It's nail. See, it needs an exact match. And that is the weakness of the vlookup. But really, in one of the basic lessons, I showed you how to set up a drop-down for this. So the nail would have been in the drop-down, so you can't mess it up. You just select it, and it automatically would have put nail in there correctly instead of the word nails. I also noticed that we still have some screwy things here, and I think that was from perhaps another lesson, but we're going to put nails in there again. There. Just to clean up the sheet. So nail, and then let's say they bought 3 boxes. So that's $18. So once again, that's vlookup, and that's giving you the return. Returns basically the value that you're looking for. In this case, it was the item sold, and it gives you the value of that item based on the number of columns in this data set. I hope that's clear. Please let me know in the comments if you have any questions regarding this, because this is a very, very handy tool, the vlookup, and I want everybody to understand this one very clearly, because you could do so much with this. It's a very, very good formula. There's also HLOOKUP, which I've used a couple times. And by a couple times, I mean, in the last 20 years, I might have used it 3 or 4 times. vlookup by far is the most common lookup function that you'll ever run into. And it's the most useful. I use it daily, every day. Anyway, thanks for joining me for another tutorial, and I hope you continue to watch them. I'm hoping you find these valuable. Thank you again. See you in the next one.